All right. Welcome to another video, everyone. Interesting scenario this evening, which I will not talk about right now. But I wanted to do this video as I thought about just some of the things that were just some of the questions I'm actually anticipating coming up to our Grow Your Wealth conference that's in a couple of days. And so I wanted to do this video to help those who, I've met who are entrepreneurs who may not be sure, do they start investing? Do they wait to invest? At what point in their business should they be investing? How to invest from their businesses? All of those questions I'm hoping to answer with this video. And I've been just a brief backstory for me. I've been an entrepreneur for 24 years. I started my first company at the age of 16. And at our launch for our business community that we did over the weekend, I went into that story a little bit more. So I won't go into the story again, but just to say that if you're an entrepreneur watching this and you need community support, business support, content, and just a place where you can grow as an entrepreneur, we've actually created a community just for you. So it's called the Grow Your Business Community. And of course, you're free to join. The link is in the description of this video and on all our social media profiles. So you're welcome to join at any point you're watching this video. That community will be there for you. So I'm going to go right into the video, and then I'm going to talk about just, I guess, the way in which I see this, right? So these are the things that I'm going to talk about here. And then, of course, there are some general investing questions that I may be able to answer for you. There's a lot to talk about on the market, actually. But so if we have enough time, I'll go through that as well. And those of you know that I'm trying to ensure that I do this video before, a certain event takes place. So bear with me there. All right, so let me talk about why you should invest, right? That's the obvious one, right? So as I said, some entrepreneurs think that they don't have the ability to invest, or think of it as, I'll wait till my business gets to a certain point before I invest, and actually think that's not the right approach. And I'll just share some reasons why here. So here's the why as to the fact that entrepreneurs, regardless of where you are, you should seriously consider starting to invest, like immediately, right? The first thing, your income from your business may be unpredictable. Now, some of you may say, well, that's Jermaine, that's a reason not to invest. I'm actually saying that's a reason why you should invest, right? Because that income unpredictability will actually be helped with the right investment strategy. And I'll talk about that later. The first 2 points are kind of the same, right? Your business may have a seasonality, and all businesses have seasonality. If ever so slightly, right? There's usually one quarter that's really good. There's usually one quarter that does the poorest in terms of performance, and then the other two may be, average depending on what's happening, right? All companies have this, all businesses have this. It's just that some companies make so much profit that it really doesn't matter. You love them anyway. But all startups, all entrepreneurs are gonna experience seasonality until your business gets to a certain point. The third point here, which I've seen a lot, and I struggled with this too, right? Entrepreneurs don't usually plan for retirement, right? I tried to do a pension plan when I was in my 20s. It didn't work out. Had a corporate job, did a pension for about 8 months. Then I left the company, pension died, and struggled over the last 24 years to actually consistently save for retirement, right? So this is something I know entrepreneurs struggle with. There's also, of course, the opportunity for passive income. And I'll talk about this some more when we get to like the investment strategy part. But depending on what you invest or how you invest, you could, again, just help the ebbs and flows of the business by just having an investment strategy to help, counter those seasons that it may be seasonal for you, right? So These are some of the reasons, of course, not all of them, and it really depends on what it is that you're going through at that particular point that will determine the how you invest. But hopefully, I've addressed the why you should invest. So these are some now common mistakes that I see in terms of how entrepreneurs either think about investing, or just some things that they may need to think about as to reasons again why we should be seriously looking at this. So most entrepreneurs, I know at least, startup stage, maybe 5 employees or less, or maybe no employees, you're not paying yourselves, right? Again, I understand exactly what that is like. I actually at one point had to take multiple points, right? So when I first started my company at 16, when I got to about 21, 22, I had to take a job at a job that paid me $24,000 a month. And I did that for a couple of months because again, I wasn't able to pay myself a salary. So I took a job to be able to get that income. Then I went back out, right? And even most recently, right, within the last year, I took the decision to take a corporate job because I wasn't able to pay myself consistently, because as the owner of the business, you typically will pay yourself last, right? So everybody else gets paid, then you get paid, or you may not get paid, at all. Some entrepreneurs just cover their bills and that's it, right? So once the bills are paid, they're fine. They don't think about getting a salary. There's no saving, there's no planning for the future. You're pretty much just, putting out fires all the time. So this is a very common mistake that I see, and something that I know a lot of persons who struggle with that. In the same vein, you may also struggle with cash flow issues. That's a part of the reason why you're not paying yourself in the first place, right? Because you're having these cash flow challenges. You may not think it practical to keep paying yourself, and it's only recently that one of the things we did for our company is ensure that we prioritize the payment of salary, right? Then of course we have to prioritize payment of taxes and statutories, but salaries, we realize that we have to start prioritizing that, or we're going to be jeopardizing our future. Because if you say that you're going to wait until the business turns around and the business struggles for 5 years, 10 years, you'll never have anything saved. You'll never be able to realize any gain from your business. And so there are many ways to diagnose cash flow issues, but of course, this is a part of the reason why you'll say as an entrepreneur that you can't invest, or that you don't think it's a good idea to invest. And then of course, this leads me to the third point, which is that you're not really thinking long term. You're not thinking, you know, what what happens when I get to that age where maybe I can't work anymore? What if something happens and I'm not able to get the same income? What if my business is disrupted? What if I have children where I didn't have before, I know I have. So these things can impact, of course, the viability of our business. So if you're not thinking long term or planning for long term, then it certainly can impact your future. Imagine you working on a business. So in my case, my first company, I worked on it for 15 years. Started it at 16, closed it down when I was 31. I closed it in debt, right? $2 million in debt for that business, 1.2 in receivables, and I just had all of these things that I was not able to do. I wasn't able to, contribute to the finances in my home. Wasn't able to take Renee anywhere meaningful. I wasn't able to do basic things for myself, right? I never bought myself any clothes. I never, did anything that was seen as treating myself, because I simply didn't prioritize it and the business wasn't generating enough money, right? So if you don't think long term, that's going to be an issue. So I'm going to talk now briefly just how to get started, right? Just some of the opportunities that you have, and then I'll take some questions, and then we can, of course, shift to a general investment conversation. right? So the options that I'll talk about briefly here, and of course we have other videos pointing to these in full. So stocks will always be my recommendation because of the lowest barrier to entry, right? You can open brokerage accounts with $5,000. You can use a lump sum. Let's say you get a really large client, a one-off job. You have some extra cash. Open that investment account. Get started. Real estate, of course, would not make sense if you're having cash flow issues or seasonality um, in your business. It just takes too much capital from you. To me, it's not practical for entrepreneurs to start with, but I do see entrepreneurs trying to go to real estate first, and that's because they grow up with their mindsets that entrepreneurship, that real estate is just something that they want to be able to own, because we all grow up thinking that we have to own our own home to feel accomplished. Next, of course, retirement plans are an issue. Pension plans. My father is close to retirement age. I'm sure, of course, he has no intention to retire, does not have a pension, doesn't have a plan, just in case he should not be earning any income. And of course, the reality in Jamaica is that most parents, of course, will rely on their children to take care of them because they didn't think about a pension or plan for a pension. And so it's just something that if you yourself don't think about that and plan for that, then the burden is going to fall on your children to be able to take care of you, and you don't want that. And then, of course, finally, you want to invest in your education, right? Invest in things like our investment challenge, or programs that allow you to learn how to invest, right? Because that skill, in addition to the skill of growing your business, will help you long term to just be able to secure wealth for yourself. So that's just something that I think you should think about. And the last, I think this is the last thing that I'll touch on here. Let me just double check these slides. Yeah, this is the last slide, right? And this is really now speaks to the how, right? Because I'm assuming that you're gonna at least jump in and get started with stocks. I would say that it really doesn't matter how you start. So, for example, I know some entrepreneurs that want to have a lump sum first. They're like, Jermaine, how much do I start with? And I'll say, you can start with any amount that you have. They don't believe me, right? Sometimes I'll see where they're struggling to wrap their minds around the fact that they really can start anywhere, because they probably also think that you have to be rich to invest. And I share my story here multiple times that we just put all of our savings into our first IPO. That's how we got started. And then we pretty much learned from there. We've made some money, we've lost some money, but the point is we started. Now, if you have a consistent amount, assuming that you're able to pay yourself and are able to do that monthly, or let's say it's every other month, but you're disciplined enough to do it, that's still enough to get started. And trust me, if you're able to build a portfolio alongside your company, then that will help you long term. Now you can invest personally or through your company. There are pros and cons to both. I won't get into on this video, but I know persons who have, for example, their company is called L.E.A.R.N Grow Invest, and they purchase their stocks through L.E.A.R.N Grow Invest, and they would have their personal accounts as well. And it's a way to, of course, ensure that the proceeds go back to the company and it's not, taken as one pool. Because the truth is, so our company, for example, is a limited liability company that's positioned to take on investment at some point. So if we invest in stocks to our company, we want it to be separate from our personal stocks, right? So just wanted to say that there, that is something that you can do. I'll go into the pros and cons into a different video, but that's it, right? So as an entrepreneur, you want to think about how to get started with investing right away. In my mind, not enough entrepreneurs think about this or plan to do this. They really just wait until the point that their business is generating so much cash, or they just delay it at some future point. I saw this with my father as well, where I would encourage him to invest, and he just keeps pushing it forward. And it's just because, he's maybe thinking, focused on the short term, how can he solve the problems for today, which is understandable, right? And I'm not saying that I don't get that part, but I've also seen where it's our investment. So when our company was struggling, it's our investments that gave us dividends, that allowed us to pay bills, that allowed us to do certain things. And I've always been disciplined enough not to sell my investments, right? Because if when the pandemic came, we sold, I would guarantee you that I would not have the amount invested now, nor would I be getting the dividends I'm getting now. So we had some lean months. We had some months where we could not make things work. And we had to make some sacrifices, but we were committed to investing. Those funds stayed. And so we're able to benefit now from a sizable portfolio that pays us enough in cap gains and dividends to, see us in a really good position right now. So those are all the things that I wanted to say for this video. I will take questions if there are questions, and then I'll introduce another video or topic and just split it at the end. But let me know if you have any questions about this. I'm checking on IG as well. Okay, so I see Aisha saying on Instagram that it cushions the unpredictable periods because of seasonality. Exactly, right? So that's just what I've seen since I've started investing. And I've only been investing for 8 years, but I've been an entrepreneur, as I said, for 24, so about a third of the time. And I can tell you that it's been a blessing for us to be investing. When the pandemic came, I was laid off from my job back in 2022. It was our investments that kept me some of those months. We actually sold an investment property last year that gave us quite a bit in terms of a lump sum. And so our investments have been really pivotal in helping us just get through hard times, right? But we had to lay the foundation, we had to be disciplined and get it to the point where it was meaningful for us. All right, so I'm looking to see if there are any more questions. If they're not, then I can shift focus just a little and then get into another topic here. But just know that this is something that I understand very well. And so don't think that I'm saying it from a place where I don't understand what you're going through as an entrepreneur. I do probably better than you think. I know it better than you think, right? And on that note, I do want, of course, invite you all to our conference, which is in just a couple of days, right? 2 days from now. We've slashed our ticket prices because we still have spaces left in the room, and we want to ensure that it's more important for us that you get value from the conference than for us to make a profit. So with these slashed prices, we're not going to make a profit, but that's okay, because we are investing in you. We're investing in the building of our entrepreneurship community, and we're okay with ensuring that we're building a strong community, providing a valuable place for persons to learn. So these prices are more than 50% less than what the prices were before, but we thought it was important to, again, just fill the room, right? So you can join online. So if you're watching us from overseas, feel free to join online. You can get your general admission ticket, which covers all of your meals for 2 days, for $20,000. And if you know the price of food in Jamaica, that 20,000 could be, in some cases, like what you'd spend on food. Sometimes if you go to a nice meal not even a nice meal, a Chinese restaurant, you're spending $7,000-8,000 for one meal, right? Then of course our VIP is $40,000, and you get the VIP breakfast, which is Saturday morning For the overall conference, it starts Friday evening. I see some persons are thinking that we're starting Friday all day, but it's Friday at 5 p.m. that we start for registration. The pitch competition starts at 7 p.m. and the business mingle starts at 8:30. So it's Friday evening because we know some persons are entrepreneurs, but they work 9 to 5, or you're an investor, you have your job that you want to be able to come from. And then Saturday we're doing all day, right? And then of course, if you want to see schedules, speakers, etc., feel free to go through it. I'm looking forward to my session, and I'm going to be talking about, again, this is useful, I think, for entrepreneurs, talking about how to use your business as a vehicle for investing, right? So it kind of builds on to this topic that I'm talking about here tonight, because I've seen, as to give you a preview of the topic, as I've started to position Learn, Grow, Invest for investment, it's caused us to manage it better, because we start to look at things, through the lens of, what would an investor be looking for. So we don't have investors now, but I'm thinking of that mindset of preparing my business for an investor. Are my margins okay? Am I doing my bookkeeping, governance stuff? Do I have a board in place? All of those things I'm thinking about as I prepare for investment. Right, so that's what I'm going to be talking about. Of course, we have some amazing topics, amazing speakers that I'd love for you to go through. And then, as I said, we start 5 p.m. on Friday. It's not all day. So we're going to update it with the start time, because some persons were a little confused about that. And then, as I said, tickets are at their lowest price right now, because we want to ensure that the room is full, and we've already planned for all the food. So it's almost like a wedding, where if you cater for 400 people and 100 show up, then you have all that food. We don't want any of our food to not be utilized. So, we want to see you there. We want you to come out, investors, entrepreneurs, professionals, companies. You're all welcome to join us. And as I said, we've set the prices such that it should be a no-brainer whether or not you join us. All right. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out. And yeah, so the topics are going to be such that you can apply them almost immediately, right? Especially the one on sales. And you may think that the sales session is for entrepreneurs, but I've found, even in corporate, which I'm in corporate right now, the technique of selling is important, right? You're always selling, or pretty much positioning value to someone, right? So that skill is extremely important. And so it's something that I think it's good for everybody to know. And so yeah, just I look forward to seeing you there, is what I'll say. All right. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to sign off here and say thank you for watching. And then I'm going to go and introduce the brand new topic that we are going to cover now, because there's a lot to talk about on the market. And so I want to get into that. Right. So for those of you who joined for the main topic, feel free to stick around, because we're going to go a little bit further. And I'm going to be doing some other videos on the entrepreneurial space. So the hope is, and I can share this here for you, we're hoping to start doing one investment related video, one entrepreneurial related video, and then we're going to start doing another segment that I won't mention for now, but we think it'll add, kind of round out our community in terms of the topics that we focus on. And the shift in that is because we really want to encourage persons into entrepreneurship. We really want to encourage persons to have multiple streams of income. For those who are running their businesses, we want it to do it well, to do it with excellence, to do it with purpose. And we want to just, encourage persons to build wealth in a meaningful way. And I can tell you the amount of money that we've generated as a company has really made a difference for us, right? If we were just doing our 9 to 5, our wealth would not be where it is now. It's the businesses that we've started. So this is my one, two, three, maybe my fourth company. One technically, I guess, wasn't, but this is my fourth company. Two were officially registered, two weren't. But if I was not an entrepreneur, I would not be anywhere near where I am, right? So my businesses have been able to provide value, not just for those who I serve, but for myself and my family, which is the aim, right? You want to have a business that is profitable. You want to have a business that is able to help you to take care of your basic needs and then some wants as well, right? So I thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Right, so I'll do that switch right now. For those who let me switch to talking about, let me bring this up right here. So actually, let me just opening it up for questions first. Are there any questions that you have for me? I know our community members are here. Do you have questions about what I just spoke about, or just general questions, right? I'm not going to cover the US market stuff just yet. I'm going to do that. We're going to have an investing in US markets challenge that is coming up soon, and that is going to be able to help persons get started in the US market. And that is really answering the question as to whether or not I think it makes sense to still invest in the US market. So the short answer is yes. You just have to know how. You have to know the way to do it. And so we're going to do that challenge as soon as May, right? So next month, we're going to have a 3-day investment challenge for investing in the US markets. So if you've always wanted to do that, not sure how to get started, just look out for that. And we're going to show you how to invest in ETFs, how to invest in companies directly, how to open your brokerage account, all of that good stuff is coming up in less than a month, right? We just need to get our conference done. We launched our community, which we wanted to do. We're going to have our monthly challenge call at the end of this month. And we want to go straight into the US markets for next month. All right. So the first company that I look at here that I know all of you are waiting for is Trans Jamaica, right? So persons have actually been concerned, I think, about Trans Jamaica, which is interesting for me, right? Because my first question is, what are you concerned about? And did anything change, right? Did the thesis change? Now, I did do a video that says my thesis on Trans Jamaica changed, and I explained why. But for the purposes of this video, I'm asking, what is it that you expected to happen when you got those shares, right? What would have changed for you, and why are you now uncertain about what would have happened, or why are you asking what's happening to the price, etc. Especially if you're not a new shareholder in Trans Jamaica, right? These are things we cover in our investment challenge. So we speak about, for example, what may happen after certain events or milestones. And so we cover this in full. I won't get into it here, but if you want to understand that stuff, of course, that's what our monthly investment challenge is for. You can sign up using the link in our bio or in the description of this video. But I've seen persons be a little concerned. I've seen some rumors as well, some speculation as to Trans Jamaica, but I wanted to just start with them because I know that there's a lot to talk about for them, right? So it's down 16% year to date, which to me is good to see, right? That's all I'll say. The next company that I wanted to talk about quickly here is Fontana. Now, we did a video on Fontana earlier this year when they did the Monarch acquisition. And, we spoke about it. That was about right here, right? I think a covered it somewhere here. So it was trading at about 780, and then acquisition announcement gained, this looks like 789, almost 20%. And then it was trading kind of there for a while, and then there was the Fenty announcement, right? So for those who are wondering, this is what happens in the short term whenever there is reason for investors to be bullish on the future of a company, right? Again, I'm keeping it simple because if you want to understand these things deeper, that's what the investment challenge is for. But this is something that is shouldn't be unexpected, right? And you're also seeing some large transactions here. That's not surprising either, because I'll tell you, usually when there is let's say that there's a reason or some sort of sharp short-term gain, right? Let's see, it's up 21% year to date. To me, it's not surprising to see whether directors, top 10 shareholders take some money off the table for some reason, right? They've either been holding for a while, or remember that Fontana, I believe, was at, I remember being a shareholder when it was like, $12, $13 a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. So it's actually not at all-time highs yet, right? So to me, it's still not at a point where it's attractive to me, honestly, because I have always thought that Fontana is going in the opposite direction, right? I don't think it makes sense to be investing in brick and mortar to the point that they're doing. Now, I think it's very good that they're doing this Fenty launch and other things to try and gain interest of their customers. But to me, those things will, people will lose interest in a while, right? People will stop being pulled in by those things, especially when you have shipping being its most affordable, shipping being its most convenient, right? They are investing in overheads essentially, right? When you set up more locations, that's more maintenance. Now, some may argue that, if they offer more conveniences, then clients may be less inclined to purchase online. And actually, now that I think about it, right, that whole tariff situation for the US, I'm waiting to see how that impacts in terms of costs for all companies that have to import, because of course they have to import a lot of their stuff from the US, and I'm waiting to see actually how that impacts like the shipping companies as well. Well, all companies across the board are going to be impacted by the tariff conversation, so it'd be quite interesting to see how that shapes up. Now, I still don't, like, no one can predict what's gonna happen in the US from day to day. So I won't try to do that. We just have to act based off the information that we have. And so I'm waiting to see just what some of those balance sheets look like after prices start to increase. I'm looking to see the companies that are really getting revenues from overseas, what that starts to look like. I'm also looking to see just how they're able to develop, right? Because in the short term, I do see where this concern around tariffs, etc., may actually bode well for Jamaica as in terms of its own e-commerce, because the truth is, if this tariff thing continues, it will increase the price of goods on places like Amazon, right? Because if they have to pay a higher cost for goods, so for example, I'm really happy that I just bought my brand new laptop online, because I'm concerned about what the cost of that laptop is going to be a few months from now. And so there are things that I would say, if you really wanted to get, you have not gotten, now would be the time to do it, just in case there's a price increase in the short term. But if things get get to the point where it's more conducive to do business in Jamaica, then of course that actually bodes well for Fontana. That's a good thing for them. Um, but of course, there are ways to go, ways to circumvent the US. It could be that, for example, persons start buying from maybe China directly or different countries directly, because the US sort of acted like this hub or this central place that you would buy through. And also, for example, when I would purchase on Amazon, that's a US company that is ordering goods likely from outside the US, bringing them to the US and then shipping them to you. If we're able to purchase now our goods directly from China or directly from other countries, to me, it would actually make it cheaper in some cases, right? Because with each point on the chain, the goods and services will cost you more. So if you're ordering directly from China, things will actually be cheaper. Now from that side, things may work out better for a company like Fontana, depending on if there's a sort of workaround or a different path through which they can order their goods and services. So that's why it's an interesting watch to see. And yeah, that's what I'll say about them for now. But kudos to them for doing what they have done. I was a shareholder in the past, and I was a little disappointed with some things, and so I decided to just focus my time elsewhere. And so I'm watching from the outside for them, and I wish the shareholders all the best. And of course, it would be good to see things progress and develop for them. Of course, if this partnership with Rihanna works out and they're able to expand it, I do wish them more success and all the success in the world in that regard. But for me, it's I like to see companies move in a different way, is what I'd say, right? One last company that I thought I would look at here. Which company is it? It's another one. Let me check the news feed here and see. Yes. Tropical was the one I think I wanted to talk about. So let me do Tropical, because I think persons are interested in that one as well. Tropical battery is the third one. No, Tropical battery is down to $2.05. The APO is supposed to be this month, so I really hope. Now the interesting thing with the APO, right? So from there, I think they confirmed it at their AGM. I think the price was closer to $3. Now, if they prepare the prospectus and the pricing and everything for the APO, and the APO price comes out to be higher than the traded price, that's going to be problematic, of course, because shareholders, of course, are not going to take too kindly to the fact that they're having to pay more for additional shares. Usually, you want that lower, but as we've seen with like a Trans Jamaica, whatever the APO price is, if it is lower, then the price will go down. Now, ideally for them, the APO price should be actually right around the same range. So let's say the APO comes out at $2, then persons will be fine, because then of course it's trading at 205 now. That would be perfect, because I think the gap, this idea for companies to give a massive discount or a 20% discount or a 30% discount for APO will bring down the price in the short term. So to me, it's okay to have the price closer, because with something like an APO, any type of special offer, you pay no fees, right? Or it's a very flat fee, right? $1.72. So it's almost like having no fees depending on how much you're buying. So that's an incentive to own a company at little or no fees, and to increase your position and get exactly what you're looking for. We still don't know the amount of money they're going to raise. We still don't know how much shares are going to be issued. Those things I'm waiting to see. I'm not currently a shareholder, and I'm waiting to see, because I do think this company has a great future. I think that the proceeds from the APO will clear down their debt significantly, and if the price keeps going down and they do pay that increased dividend that I'm expecting, if they pay an 8 cent dividend here, what was that yield I think I calculated here? Oh, my phone shuts off. my, my phone shuts off at 11 p.m. So if they do a 8 cent dividend, which I'm expecting because they've been doubling their dividend, if they do that at current prices, that's a 3.9%, almost 4% dividend. If the price goes lower and that yield goes close to 5%, that'd be extremely attractive for somebody like me. And so so there are persons who worry when prices go down. I look at the opportunity that is presented, same that I was looking at for like a NCB recently, where the price was going down. And if you notice, you've been seeing there was a lot of bullish sentiment for the Jamaica stock market at the start of the year. Now, I do think that that bullish sentiment is still there, but it's going to be impacted or colored or skewed by what's happening globally, right? That can't be ignored. And we also have to look at the fact that we have multiple bonds that are out. Barita has their bond out now, which is taking a lot of capital out of the market, because investors may be looking at these prices going down, looking at stock prices trending down and down and down, saying capital gains aren't guaranteed, and then say, well, it's safer to put my money in a bond. Even if you're locking it up for 2 years, all the way up to 10 years, you may say, well, that's fine for me because it's better for somebody to take 8%, 9%, 10% every year. Or they may be thinking it's better for them to lock in that 8 to 10% over the long period than to try and find the stock that's going to give them great capital gains, right? So that's how investors are thinking. But for me, you just have to know how to invest in a market like this, which I know how to do. And so it's a great opportunity, I think, right? So I see Mr. Pink asking, would you see Tropical Battery as a good investment? I can't answer that for you, guys. I think I'm not a financial advisor yet. I'm hoping to be one very soon, but I'm not as of this recording. But I can't answer that for you. That's a personal decision, right? And Dehaney is asking, how do you think investors will react to the most recent Dolphin Cove news? That I had to read that notice twice, by the way. So what I will say, Mr. Johnson, is that I would think so. I would think most investors who weren't too keen on the whole bankruptcy announcement would have already ended their position already. So I'm not expecting a major reaction. This is where they're trading as at the point of this video. It's messy. It's messy. But I was looking at this company. Let me see. Where's the article that came out today? I think it was shared in our community. Hold on. Let me try and find it. I see Mrs. Mac is on the live. Mrs. McDonald, do you need me? Because if Renee is up, maybe her son is up. So let me know if you need me, Renee, and I can end the stream early. No problem. All right, so this was shared in our community group, and thanks to Nicola for sharing. This is why I love the community group, by the way, because you may not see something right away and somebody else is able to share it for you. I'm gonna try and read this as best as I can because I had to read it very carefully. Um, because it was like seemed like it was rushed to put together. But this is addressed to the managing director of the JSE, Dr. Marlene Street Forest, and it's addressed for today, right? We are the legal representatives of World of Dolphin Limited, which is a holder of 79.99% of the shares in Dolphin Cove Jamaica, the company. We have been informed by Rhonda Goodison, Secretary of Dolphin Cove, that some of the board members of Dolphin Cove, Noah Levy, John Bailey, and Richard Downer, pretend to reinstate Stafford Burrows in the board of Dolphin Cove, who was given notice of termination in full compliance of the company bylaws since Monday, December 2nd, 2024. The history of this is that I think recently there was some notice here. I think this is the one that came out to say when I thought this was interesting to see, by the way. Dolphin Cove wishes to advise that based on the legal advice the company has received, Mr. Burrows remains the chairman of Dolphin Cove Limited and the Jamaica Stock Exchange has been duly advised. This was less than a week ago, right? And I thought this was like, why is this notice coming out? How does this make sense to just announce randomly? But then here are the details, right? So all board members of Dolphin Cove received a written notice of Stafford Burrows' termination the same day, and the reasons of his termination when he was totally disrespectful to some of our staff at Dolphin Cove, especially some of the women in the administration who were attacked and intimidated by him, screaming that he was a chairman of the board and they had to follow his own instruction and do as he indicated them. Regardless of his position, such actions of discrimination are not accepted in the park or any animal habitat or operated by the dolphin company and have no tolerance as we are committed to offer a safe environment to all our associates and members of the dolphin company. That whole thing kind of read a little weird, but I get what they're trying to say there. Now, of course, you cannot have a member of the board, a member of staff, or anybody being disrespectful to anyone. Now, this is certainly not good in terms of the optics for the company. I would have wished that something like this would have been resolved internally and quickly, since it's now seemed to be dragged on. Because if he was given notice of termination December 2, which means whatever he did would have happened, before. And this is the same thing that I said re the whole Jamaica broiler situation where something is happening in the company and you as the investor, you're not made aware until months later. This is 5 months later that you're seeing this, because I don't think we saw the notice of the termination last year when it was done. I don't believe so, right? Yeah, no notice of termination anywhere here, right? So how were shareholders supposed to know that he was terminated? Which is why this notice of retaining him didn't make sense, because I'm a shareholder. I did not see that notice that he was terminated. So when he says that he remains the chairman, I was like, okay, that's random. But of course, this is shedding light as to the fact that he was terminated, right? So we notified Stafford and all the board members of his termination and requested that the secretary inform the JSC immediately as a part of her duties. However, instead of complying and supporting our decision for the good of the company, they did not share this information with the JSC and instead supporting our decision and take side with the company. They are protecting Stafford Burrows and attempting to reinstate him despite that they are fully aware of the reasons for his termination. Now, this does not look good, certainly, because of course, as the parent company wanting to or insisting that somebody is being let go, instructions are given. The secretary should have notified the JSC, did not notify the JSC, and now it's this coming out in this way is certainly not good. but I'll share my thoughts on it a little bit later in terms of what I think overall. All right. So, moreover, mentor Richard Donner and Rhonda Goodison has failed in their duty to report to the JSC all these actions as they ignored our request to report this change in the board and instead pretend to become judge and qualify the process of his termination, something that can only be challenged by a Stafford in Court of Law in Jamaica, which he has not done after more than 4 months, which is fair, right? That's what they're saying here. So these three persons were aware of all the above since December 2nd and instructed her not to report it to the JSC. So of course, this is gonna look very it's gonna make it's gonna bring tension, right, between both sides. Now, what I did think about, as I don't know if it's a silver lining that I'd say, but this may compel, for example, these shareholders to sell their shares. It may compel them to say, well, we don't want to have, if you don't want to take our input in the operations, then we're going to sell our shares. We're moving on from the company, etc. Which honestly would not be a bad thing for the company. No, I'm not in agreement with anything that is being said here in terms of what's happening, but the the independence of the company would bode well for the company, since of course the parent company is dealing with bankruptcy proceedings, because if there's a separation, then that means, of course, then it's favorable for Dolphin Cove Jamaica. Now, depriving investors of information they were aware of, that's my biggest issue with all of this. And all other investors were entitled to also know. Instead, they sought legal opinion to Gina Black, an attorney from Myers Fletcher and Gordon, a firm that is supposed to represent Dolphin Cove and not Stafford Boris or any other board member who, like in this case, had a conflict of interest. That is also an issue here, right? This was also, in our opinion, very unethical from Gina Black and the firm, so this I would not have said in this way, because of course we don't know the circumstances under which the law firm here would have acted, because it could be that they reached out not stating that there was an issue or conflict or anything like that, and it seems that they're throwing the law firm under the bus here, which I'm not necessarily sure that was the right thing for them to do here. So to say it's unethical, it really would depend on what information they were given, because of course, if they are your usual lawyers, you reach out to them, you ask for guidance on something, they can only act on the information that they know. And I don't really know the terms under which this will be navigated. I really can't say. I'm not a lawyer here, right? Even they only acknowledge lack of information to assess the validity of removal. So this part doesn't necessarily read clear to me. It says even they only acknowledged lack of information to assess the validity of the removal. If they're saying that if they should have requested information, I'm not sure if that's what they're saying here. But that one is a little tricky. So Stafford Boris is no longer a member of the board due to acts of aggression and intimidation towards employees, and of course, in full agreement with that. That's not something you want to condone in any company. And as a chairman, that really sets a bad precedence there. I'm not sure with this coming out that shareholders will want him to remain as chair. So we'll see what happens there. And he should not be allowed to remain on the board as people are intending. By this mean, we're formally requesting that the Jamaica Stock Exchange investigate the actions of Richard Donner, Noel Levy, John Bailey, and Rhonda Goodison, who have failed to report the critical information to the JSC, violating their duties as board members for a public company. We expect the JSC takes action and investigate why they hid this information for the protection of public investors, and suspend the trading of the stock if you consider it necessary, and until this investigation is properly conducted. All statements made here are supported by the documented evidence produced and are verified by Trevor Patterson, counselor for the world of dolphins, right? So, ah, a lot here, right? As I said, this is how it was trading today. Depending on how this is taken, right? Of course, any sign of trouble, some investors may go. Now, I personally think, and let me just say, I do need to think about this because um, I am trying to process my level of bias. And I say level of bias because I'm a shareholder. There's going to be, I think, some inherent bias based on my view of things. So I'll just say that. No, I look at this kind of thing as something that's certainly going to leave a bad taste in some investors' mouth. But I look at this as a matter that it it's about culture, it's about morale, it's about no perception in some sense. But this to me should not have a direct impact, at least long term, on company performance, which is the part that I'm looking at. Meaning, I'm hoping that this matter can be resolved, and the resolution is it should look to be something that is meaningful, right? Now, I do see a case where clearly there are persons who are involved here who want the chairman to remain. We don't know the full circumstances of that matter. We don't know if it's a case where, because I've been inside a corporate and I've seen, what we call politics, right? So we've heard a side of the story. We haven't heard a statement from Mr. Burrows. We don't know fully what has taken place there. That's the part that I'm really trying to just not make any assumptions. Of course, if it is what is shared is factual, then certainly I would understand their request to have him removed, which would be the appropriate thing to do. You don't treat people that way, you don't treat staff that way, and the more word gets out, that's gonna be bad for business, right? I don't look at it as having an impact on the profitability of the business, because if he's the chairman of the board, he's not there in terms of day-to-day operations. And so I'm expecting that they should be able to deal with this and shield the persons who need to be shielded or protected based on what is being shared. But it's certainly something that is messy that they need to address quickly, not take weeks to respond, but respond in a timely manner. And especially since the notice about the bankruptcy, I thought they should have done like a meeting or some investor briefing similar to what Jamaica Brawl has done or something, right? Because that was an important matter to address. I've been talking about Dolphin Co for the last 20 minutes. So that's what I have to say. Johnson, let me know if that appropriately shares my thoughts. But I don't think after what I've seen, it would change me from being a shareholder, because I'm not looking at that to determine my decision, but it is something that I think needs to be addressed quickly, because of course these things can linger. Now, I do think that Jamaica Broilers, in terms of concern, right? I did the video on them, and I heard somebody saying today that it traded its lowest in the last 52 weeks. There is so much more to be seen here for this company, and so this is going to be, I think, one that is going to be like I watch closely. But for Dolphin Cove, they really can't afford any other negative sentiment, I would say. Meaning, if the report comes out and it's bad, that's gonna be almost catastrophic in the short term, at least, right? So that's what I'd say. But for me, there are things that um, still make it an interesting company for me. It is. I'm a person of, like, I'm watching those things though, because they're adding up in my mind. I would think as things that if there are a series of failures and no change in management or leadership or something, then it's gonna start really leaving a lot left to be desired, and would explain some things, actually, right? So that's what I'll say, read Dolphin Cove. And yeah, hopefully that shares my thoughts on it appropriately. All right, so I'm gonna close here, guys, but I will just remind you, just because it's 2 days away, that you can get your conference tickets for its all-time low price, right? So $12,000 online, which is about 75 US dollars if you're overseas. $20,000 for the general admission that covers your entry into the conference for 2 days and covers your meals and refreshments. Or you can go VIP, which is really a sweet deal in terms of the cost, in terms of versus value that you get. Having it in 2 days, very excited about it. We've been planning it for the last 3 months. It's gonna be amazing. I want to thank all our speakers. We signed a new sponsor today. Can't wait to announce that to you on social media tomorrow. And very excited about what these 2 days will bring. And I hope to see you all there. All right. So I've covered some market updates. We're going to be doing some other videos this week, going live on Instagram tomorrow, and then going live on YouTube on Thursday. And yeah, so hope you enjoy the rest of your night. Check out this other video that you're gonna see in a moment.
Learning is the key to successful investing, and who doesn't want to invest in some way?
Here at L.E.A.R.N Grow Invest, we focus on financial education, all with the aim of sharing our knowledge on personal finance, investing, and building wealth. We do this on the foundation of our faith in God.
If a more holistic approach is what you need, check out our Grow Faith-based financial coaching program.
Find out more about us at learngrowinvestclub.com
and follow us on all social media platforms at L.E.A.R.N Grow Invest.